from the thing them call a broken heart. This blessed love will never part. They don't know it from the start. Me tell them say I'm dirty, yeah. A Sean Paul and Sasha, come sing for them, baby.
Though you make me holler, though you make me sweat, I can't get your tenderness. Still I can't get you off my mind. What is it about you, baby?
I don't say dirty, dirty love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
Well, I'm a hustler and a player, and you know I'm not to stay. That's a dirty, dirty love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
So girl, they try to understand that a man is just a man. That's a dirty, dirty love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
That's the loving from the start, but you know we're at the part. That's the way I give my love.
I'm still in love. Yes, I'm still in love.
What a man gotta do, what a man gotta do. Girl, when I never had for promise and no bling bling for all a girl. When I just so loving when me fling fling control a girl. And I make your head swirl, and I make your body twirl, and I make you wanna be my one and only baby girl. Night after night, make you feel love to keep you warm. Girl, you never get this kind of loving from your bond. I know you want your cat, and me just can't perform.
Love you, baby.
I know you get the little loving of a
You
God.
don't know how to love me.
I know no time for no kissing and
Not
chow.
even how to kiss me.
I do my take a little advice,
I
dog.
don't know why.
Baby girl, baby girl, baby girl, baby girl.
I love you, baby.
I don't see nothing, nothing love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
Well, I'm a hustler and a player, and you know I'm not to stay. That's a dirty, dirty love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
So girl, can't you understand that a man is just a man? That's a dirty, dirty love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
The blessed loving from the start, but you know we're at the part. That's the way I give my love.
I'm still in love. Yes, I'm still in
Yo,
love.
what a man gotta do, what a man gotta do, girl. Hey, I do me give and dog love and say bye, bye, bye. But turn around, she ask the question, why? When me leave in me city, girl, I cry. And it hurts my heart to tell a lie. So don't cry no more, baby girl, for sure. Just remember the good times we had before.
I love you, baby.
This is
WRSV, Elm City,
Turn Up.
Choice FM. The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday, September 16th, 2024. You know what today is, right? Today is 49 days before Election Day. I'm fumbling a little bit, getting set in the studio. Welcome to the James Gailliard Show. Welcome to Choice 92.1 FM. I'm with you every Monday live from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. talking news, pop culture, religion, particularly politics. I'll be talking a lot about that today, as I do in every show. And so I want to welcome you. Go ahead and share this with someone. I want to shout everyone out that is with us on Facebook and on YouTube. And we'll be checking out all of your comments and all of the things. I want to say happy Monday to everyone except people who are not registered to vote. And I'm going to talk a lot about that today. Today on the show, this is what I want to do. And if you want me to cover a specific topic, let me know. And I will be happy to, if I don't get to it today, get to it on another show. Today, I want to first remind you of what tomorrow is. Tomorrow is September 17th, but I want to talk to you about what that means exactly. And so that's number one. And then I want to talk a little bit about Springfield, Ohio, and the whole issue of pets being eaten by Haitians, how that all got started, what is the impact of that for the Haitian community. And then I want to share with you some things I shared at the North Carolina Black Women's Empowerment Banquet yesterday in Garner. If y'all were with me, if anybody's watching or listening that was at the North Carolina Black Women's Empowerment Network banquet yesterday evening from 4 to 7 p.m., go ahead and shout that out. I appreciate all of you. I saw some of my good friends on City Council in Raleigh and Stormy. I'll shout you out. I don't know if you're listening or watching. Good to see Tyler Swanson, the school board of Wake County, and the sheriff. Was good to see him for Wake County, and just a bunch of folk. And so let me begin, first of all, that tomorrow is National Voter Registration Day. Tuesday, November 17th is Voter Registration Day. I want to encourage everyone tomorrow. I'm going to do it. I'm going to post it out. I want to encourage everyone tomorrow to check your voter status. Go to NC Voter Lookup. All my folk in Raleigh, Durham, Wake County, Wilson, Rocky Mount, Knightdale, Zebulon, where else I have people watching and usually listening from. Wendell, Pine Tops, Tarboro, Scotland Neck, Roanoke Rapids, Enfield, Whitakers, all those are usually where the people are listening to me from. Tomorrow I want you to go to NC Voter Lookup and then put your name in. If you have a unusual name like Gailliard, you don't even have to put in your county. But just go ahead and put in your name and your date of birth and your county and hit search. And your voter registration information should come up. Go ahead and click on that. Let's make sure that's active. Let's make sure there's been no funny business with your registration. Make sure that the address that is on your voter registration actually matches the address on your ID. Let's make sure that your ID has not been expired. Okay? So, and then what I want you to do is post something like, I checked my voter registration and I'm good. And then I want you to tag some people or text some people and just like, hey, did you check your voter registration? And then let's just start asking people. Like, what would the world be like if we started asking people, hey, man, do you know Jesus? Do you have a relationship with the Lord? And hey, man, are you registered to vote? Like, I really think the two things that can really radically improve our lives for generations to come are both having a relationship with God and being active in his government. Like, I really believe those two things. I mean, family goals. You do know there's only 3 institutions ordained by God, right? And that was the family, the church, and the government. And, I think that holds true today, that when we find ourselves in a context where we have a family of people that love us, support us, that hold us accountable, that love us through our difficulties, that are patient with us, that are affirming to us. So when we have family, and then when we have a church family, a faith community, where we can learn about God, where we can be drawn closer to God, where we can have people that are like-minded, praying for us and encouraging us and sharing with us examples of what it means to live godly and righteously. And then when we involve ourselves in the political process, which really becomes the seat of power, the seat of influence, the access to possessions, the access to resources, I think that really is a formula for a really solid life. And I really think all 3 have to be true. And where I want to lean in on this show, as I do every show, is just making sure that we're leaning in on this issue of our vote. And so, everybody out there, go ahead and register because it's so important, okay? So 49 days from Election Day, early voting is going to start in October. I want all of us to get the vote out. And then listen, what's your voter plan? What is your vote? So listen, now to Election Day, now to November 5th, it's all for me. This is what I'm going to be talking about. And today, I'm going to show you why I'm talking so much about it, okay? And I'm feeling stronger and more and more about that. People want me to talk a little bit about the White House. Some of y'all probably saw my post. I was at the White House on this past Friday. And so I normally do a segment about, hey, what happened since we were on the air last. And so I was at the White House for the celebration of Black excellence, and entertainers and political personalities and corporate CEOs, and it was just really good being able to represent North Carolina. As it was a couple of us there from North Carolina, but representing the faith community and seeing I think the issue for me was just being around so many people doing the darn thing, and just a reminder to me of how important it is for all of us to surround ourselves with people that are doing the darn thing, right? And not so much surrounding ourselves with people that are a pull or a strain, but people that are helping lift up arms, people that are helping make a difference. And so I felt really liberated. I felt empowered. It felt good to have substantive conversations with people that were thinking like I was thinking, or even close, or challenging my way of thinking. So really, really cool to be there. I didn't stay long in D.C. I had the opportunity to, but I didn't, because I'm a pastor and I want to give back to the congregation that the Lord has blessed me to be able to pastor. So tomorrow, September 17th, National Voter Registration Day. What are we doing? We are checking our voter status. Because listen, real talk, we're checking, let me say this, we're checking our voter status. We're making sure the information is correct. We're making sure our identification matches what's on our voter registration record. And we're making sure that the identification that we have is valid. It is not expired. Like, those are the things we're going to make sure of, okay? And then, number 5, we're going to determine what our early voting plan is. I'm going to be releasing a faith-based early voting strategy over the next couple of weeks. And so if you're a person of faith, you'll be able to jump right in on that. And I think it's going to be something that we share statewide. So it's going to be really, really good stuff, right? Okay. So I just want to encourage you about that. You know, for me, and this is just real talk, like, the vision of our church is everyone thriving, right? And the mission of our church is people empowering people and communities in all areas of life to the glory of God. Like, we really want to see people's lives stronger and better, more fuller and more fulfilling. We want to see people's lives, people walking in their purpose, people getting up every day excited about their future, having the ability as they walk their lives out with the Lord to have the ability to be able to, without a strain, be able to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is not possible without public policy that lends itself to that kind of reality. You know, if you are, and I'm getting ahead of what I want to talk about today, but, you know, if you are a person that feeds homeless people, you know, there are homeless people, you do know, right, that have children, which means if you really love that homeless person, you should care about them having a home one day. And you should also care about their children, which means their children need to have access to a sound, basic public education. And can y'all handle what I'm about to say? I think more people don't involve themselves politically. Pastors, and I'm going to talk today about that. I'm going to spend my whole second segment on that. I think pastors don't, and I think nonprofit executives don't. And I think they don't for a couple of reasons, and there are usually 2. One big reason is because they're afraid of running off their donor base. So because they are not financially stable enough to live without certain revenue streams, they keep their mouths shut on the oppression towards the very people that they've been tasked to help. Because oftentimes the people that are writing the big checks for them to do the work that they need to do are the very people that support public policy positions that are oppressing the people that nonprofit is being tasked to help to begin with, which means they don't get involved because they want to sustain a position for themselves. It's not, and so they don't get in, because the reality of it is, with better public policy, they may not need to do some of what they're doing. And we should all be serious about getting to a point of just working ourselves out of a job. But we won't involve ourselves. So I think we don't, and I get, you know, you've got to walk the line in terms of you don't have to be partisan. But I do think we have to be political. And I think we have to understand how bills are made, how things happen. We have to understand the impact and the consequences of legislation. We have to understand the unintended consequences of legislation that we think might be good, but it's really bad. And so I'll spend the whole second part of the show talking about that. Let me shift gears. This is James Gailliard. You are watching the James Gailliard Show, listening to the James Gailliard Show right here on the People Station, Choice 92.1 FM. And they're kind enough to let me hang out every Monday with all of you from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. right here on 92.1 FM and on all of the other outlets. Let me shift gears. And go ahead and share this with somebody, if you would, and type in your comments and your questions, and I'm going to jump all over them in just a few moments, okay, after we take the first break. So Donald Trump, it's so frustrating for me because you just have a group of people that want to believe the worst. They just will not accept this man for who he is. And I think I have the kind of qualities and personality and character that if there is something redeeming about an individual, I'm willing to own that and accept that. But it's hard for me when, so Donald Trump makes this baseless claim, and it's a dangerous claim, that immigrants in Ohio were eating people's pets in front of millions of people, he makes this claim. And this is God works in such a strange way, because part of the reason I'm raising this is because I am seeing in our church an increase in Haitian. They've not joined necessarily yet, but they're visiting. And so for the last 3 consecutive Sundays, I had people come up to me, introduce themselves as their first-time visitor. The last 3 consecutive weeks, a person has come up to me telling me that they were originally from Haiti. And, just this past Sunday, they live in Greenville, and they went to ECU. Charming young lady. And so now this has a more personal tone for me than it did before. And I know people, and I haven't checked who's on yet, but like I know people like LaShawn Jenkins, who's a pretty regular with me, a very regular actually. I know he has a real passion and a real heart around Haiti, and so I know he'll probably have something to say about this as well. So he's making these baseless claims, and a guy who lives there, Johnson Salomon, he gets a tweet like, "Hey man, let's turn on the debate." So he gets a text from a friend telling him to turn on the debate, and he literally is, listening to this rhetoric. And this is a Haitian who lives in Springfield, Ohio, and he's like, "It's just a false claim." And this is what he said: "I can't believe such a high official could make such a claim." And then what gets more complicated is that J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and a bunch of Ohio Republicans, they start spreading the false rumors. We talked about last week how, a lie will get around the world before the truth can even get its shoes on, right? And so this false rumor starts just because of this comment at the debate. And so talking about they've been, killing people's pets. And I have to admit, the memes on this are hilarious. The stuff that people are putting out, like pictures of their dog with their big eyes or their cats, and it's just hilarious. Like they have the Donald Trump thing playing in the background, about they're eating the pets, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and it's just hilarious. I have to admit that. But I think that what I want to lift up for us is recognizing that this is not what responsible leadership does. This is not how caring, loving leadership operates. This is not how leadership of integrity and character operate. And I just don't care. The last people who should embrace the means justifies the ends. The last people that should embrace that concept are people of faith. And so just because you want more money, or just because you don't want to see a certain tax increase, or just because you want to see Roe versus Wade overturned, or just because you have whatever political agenda or policy position preference you have, does not mean that it's okay to get there by lying and cheating and manipulating. As people of faith, the means cannot always justify the ends. And I want people who disagree with me to tell me why you disagree with me. So understand what happened. Because here's where my thinking is. My thinking is, if it's 60,000 people, now that immediately my antenna goes up. 60,000 people, y'all, that's Wilson, North Carolina. 60,000 people, that's Rocky Mount, North Carolina. 60,000 people, 15,000 of them are Haitians. You know, so I'm like, man, how? So the first question I've got is, how in the world do 15,000 Haitians get to Springfield, Ohio? Like, what in the world? Well, they're there because Springfield, Ohio lost manufacturing. The town was dying. They didn't have a workforce. And people from Haiti who had come in, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the process, they're there on temporary protected status, TPS. So all this rhetoric about them being illegal immigrants is just another lie, okay? They're not here illegally. They're here under temporary protected status. And there's 15 countries, so Haiti is not the only one. I'm going to do a list of the other 14 countries because I'm curious. I hadn't had a chance to check it before the show today. You know, what are the other 14 countries that are here on temporary protected status? And I'm wondering what complexion they might be, because I'm wondering maybe it's a reason Haitians are being picked on. But temporary protective status is a federal immigration designation that allows an immigrant to legally live and work in a country for up to 18 months, okay? And then it allows the individual to come to the United States legally, and then they can immediately apply for a work permit. And actually there is something now afoot to extend that beyond the 18 months. And I'll talk about that maybe on another show. And so so maybe you don't know. Some of us know. But criminal gangs have like pillaged Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and all the areas around it. And they're literally like killing people, raping people, kidnapping. I'm talking thousands of people. And so they're leaving, you know, and they're trying to find a better life. That's supposed to be what this nation was about, right? This is the melting pot where you come for a better life. And so they started arriving like in 2018. So, you know, what I think is interesting, understand this. So in a 6-year window or so, they started arriving in Springfield, Ohio. It's dead there. But because they can't find a workforce, so they're like, hey, we want to work. And you should see some of the reports about how effectively they work. And housing was affordable. So they started going there. And then they started letting other people know. Like they would come into Florida, come through Florida, and then they would make their way to Ohio. And they started letting other people know. So now it gets to a point where, you know, 15,000 of the 16,000 person population are Haitians. And that's happened over a period of 6 years. But understand something. It wasn't until it was this presidential race that Haitians got politicized for their being in Springfield, Ohio, right? It wasn't until now that this became an issue. And I think when you begin lying against people and then putting them in damage and putting them in a place of vulnerability, particularly when they left a place of vulnerability, why would you want a man capable of that to be your president? So I want to know. I'm going to check your comments because I really want to know. And so what has broken my heart is that I read a Christianity Today report and they were interviewing a former pastor from Haiti. And he is the leader of the Haitian Community Help and Support Center. And that exists in Springfield, Ohio. And he's getting phone call after phone call from local immigrants, and they are in panic for their safety. I mean, think about it. You already are leaving a place where you are victimized, vulnerable. And now you come to the United States for a safe haven so you can make a living and hopefully have a permanent status one day. And then one of the most high-profile people in the world starts lying about your population group, and this is not like they can hide. They're not in Atlanta, y'all. They are not in New York City. They are not in Philadelphia or Detroit or Dallas or Houston. They are, in practical terms, in a place the size of Rocky Mount. They are, for practical terms, so their children are going to school here. And now this community is in a panic. And it talked about how church service this past Sunday was just literally them wailing and crying out before the Lord, because many of them are Christians. Hey, this is James Gailliard, and you're watching the James Gailliard Show. I talked about voter registration day tomorrow. Now I'm talking about Haitians, Donald Trump, and Springfield, Ohio. We'll pick up on this conversation on the other side of the break. I'm going to look at your comments. You're live with me on Choice 92.1 FM. I'll be right back.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM. SafeVoterNC.org. Our communities, our issues, our future. It's time to bring politics closer to the people. Your vote brings politics back to what matters. Us. Be the change you want to see. Learn how your vote impacts our daily lives. And let's make politics work for us. Visit SafeVoterNC.org for your credible election resources. Craven Crabs presents Southern Soul Sundays with Les Long. Craven Crabs at Touchdown Sports Bar, Tower Shopping Center in Raleigh. 984-286-7260. Craven Crabs.
Congressman Don Davis is focused on getting things done for our families. Born and raised in eastern North Carolina, Don Davis grew up cropping tobacco to help pay for school clothes, to help his family make ends meet. It's this very struggle that led him to a life of service. First in the military, where Don Davis served in the Air Force, and now in Congress, where every day he works to lighten the load for us. Don Davis has worked to fund our HBCUs, expanded access to rural health care, saved over 6,000 local jobs, and introduced a bill to protect Social Security and Medicare, so our seniors can keep the benefits they worked their whole lives to earn. Don Davis is fighting for us because he's been there, because he's one of us. Don Davis for Eastern North Carolina.
I'm Don Davis, candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Don Davis for NC.
Life is full of uncertainty. Let us help you plan. Whether you're a young family, an older adult, or a business owner. At the Cotton Law Firm, we can help you establish guardianship for your children through a trust, help you with long-term care planning, or place your business interests in a trust through estate planning, creating a legacy for your children. I'm Nicole Cotton with the Cotton Law Firm. Let me help make sure your family is taken care of if the unthinkable happens.
Estate planning for everyone. Call Cotton today or visit cottonlawfirm.com. Cotton is the name, but we're no softy. Cottonlawfirm.com.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it. And you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-257-1638. 800-257-1638. 800-257-1638. That's 800-257-1638.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's James Gailliard. Welcome back to the James Gailliard Show. We're in segment number 2. I was looking at some of your comments here online. I always lose like 15 people during the commercial break, so we need to work on that. I saw that there was a request about being on from 5 to 7. I have not talked to the station about this yet, but once we kick in on early voting, I'm going to want to be on more. And so if I can just identify the right co-hosts with me to do the second hour so there can be a little bantering, et cetera, I think we may actually do that. So Natasha with some comments about the Haitian American people that she knows, I would agree with you. LaShawn is probably our community expert on Haiti, having been there 8 times. He says there has historically been an attempt to demonize the Haitian culture, and there are many reasons for that, to punish a country that became the first free black republic in the world. We demonize Haiti because they wouldn't bow down to racist global policy led and backed by American leaders. Haitians fought in the American Revolution. They fought for American freedom before they even won their own in 1804. Chicago was founded by a Haitian. He just goes on and on. And, you know, I agree with you. Just great comment, and I appreciate all of that. And LaTanya, I appreciate this. Right after the good laugh about cats and dogs, the reality sets in on how serious it is. And I agree. And so I want us to be sensitive to this. Like, I want us defending anyone that is vulnerable. That's what strong people do. That is what people of integrity do. And so let me get back to my story on Haiti. And so the problem now is that there is a panic that is setting in amongst Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. I don't know, y'all. I'm going to have some people like closing their eyes like, I don't believe he just said that. You know what I'm thinking? I'm feeling a mission trip to Springfield, Ohio. Like, I really think we should just go. Like, think about this. What if like 15 or 20 of us went? Like, look, we're from a city the size of Springfield, Ohio, and we just go. Like, we figure out a little road trip. We go to Springfield. We meet some people ahead of time. We meet with some pastors. We actually talk to them. Like, we show people back here in North Carolina, because we have people. There are people on my social media posts. The only reason on my timeline, the only reason I don't like unfriend them is because I just want to keep understanding how people are thinking. But it's like mind-boggling to me what people are thinking and saying. I'm wondering, they haven't been to Springfield, Ohio. How about we go? Like, how about if we carve out 3 days, we drive to Springfield. Somebody find out for me how far is Springfield, Ohio from Rocky Mount. And we just go and we spend a day with them, stay overnight, and just come on back. I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out. Y'all can tell me how you feel about that later. But so you got this panic amongst people that come here for refuge. They have literally, let me tell you what I am reading. They have helped economically revive Springfield, Ohio. This is, can I tell you what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the building of our nation, that we are brought here 405 years ago to build America and made slaves in the land that we built. And here are now people that are vilified in a city that they helped create an economic revival in. And so now you have these tensions escalating because, I want to say it again, because of false rumors about Haitians that have been fanned by former President Donald Trump. Now they're in the national spotlight. And now you have local Ohio church leaders. They are largely supportive of the Haitian community. And that community in Ohio is predominantly Christian. But now they're navigating even divisions within the Christian community. So evangelicals, Christians that are supporting Donald Trump, wake up, people. This is a man that by his own rhetoric, by his own lies, have even created division within the ranks of your own faith system. And so now you have pastors in Springfield, Ohio, who pastor some of the larger churches, and they are having meetings, they're having press conferences, they're having phone calls to debunk the misconceptions about Haitians. But here's the problem. Social media and national news cycles, and this is what the article said, those national news cycles are conservative news outlets. They are running headlines that say to a resident that Springfield is a dystopian nightmare. And that is speaking louder than the pastors on the ground and the people who live there and the business owners. I don't know that I copied and pasted that particular quote, but I read an article from a machine shop operator, and a machine shop operator, literally was like, these are the best workers. I think he says 10% of his workforce are Haitian. And this is what he said. He said, I wish I had 30 more of them. Like he says, they come to work, they stay at their machines, they meet their numbers, they're great, they're dependable, they're reliable, and they have helped foster the development of my business. Meanwhile, you have Donald Trump saying they're eating people's pets. And then you have some people who have such vile ingrained in them that they just want to believe that about human beings. And so this is what's happened. Let me tell you, let me go on with the domino effect of this, of one lie. The domino effect of a lie. Now you have school buildings and government buildings that have been shut down because they've been threats to the schools. So this man is so powerful, he speaks a lie, and now kids can't even go to school. So 2 elementary schools this past Friday were closed in Springfield and were evacuated. And then this is what the person who leads the agency in Springfield, Ohio said. He says, words matter. What you can say can unite people or it can create great division in a community. And so this is what I want us to be mindful of. This is not sound leadership. This is beyond Democrat and Republican. This is beyond conservative and liberal. This is beyond gender and race. This goes to the heart and core of character. People that God has called to leadership. They do not create divisions in the ranks of communities. They create unity amongst the community. And so, you know, the people saying, listen, man, we've been through a lot. They quoted one guy in Springfield who bought a house there. And he's like, man, I'm considering trying to go somewhere else because I'm in such panic and fear about what might happen. And so, look, this is James Gailliard, and you're watching the James Gailliard Show. We're talking, I opened up our time today talking about tomorrow being National Voter Registration Day and all the things that we need to do. And so please pass that on, do those things. And then I wanted to talk about Haiti and how Haitians got to, not Haiti, but Haitians, how Haitians got to Springfield, Ohio, what's really going on the ground in Springfield, Ohio, and how we have to be really careful about the rhetoric. You know, I don't know how many of you are noticing, but like I'm noticing more and more people from other ethnicities in other countries in our own community. Like when I'm at the grocery store, when I'm at Food Lion or Harris Teeter, I don't go to Harris Teeter that much, but Food Lion or Sam's Club, I'm seeing it more and more. And so yeah. So look, one more segment today, and was really reluctant to do this, but I think I'm going to do it. Was encouraged by the family to do this. I was with the North Carolina Black Women's Empowerment Network banquet last night. We were there from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I was the keynote speaker. And I gave a speech called Breaking Barriers. And it received amazing reviews, and people really responded well, which I was grateful. I want to share, not the speech verbatim, but I want to share some of the things that I talked about at that banquet. And I want to use them as a talking track as we move forward politically. The first thing I want to do is just I want everybody clear about James Gailliard and how I operate. As you know, I've been a pastor now for 24 years, and I've also been a state legislator. And so my real sweet spot is at the intersection of church and civics. My sweet spot is at the place of pastoral leadership and public policy. Now, I'm about to say some things very harsh. They're going to come off harsh, but I don't mean them that way. You know, one of the things that I am hoping we can change, one of the mandates that I feel God has placed upon me, a mantle that God has placed upon me, is that I'm asking God to use me to successfully reintroduce the conversations of both faith and politics into everyday life. Like, no longer do I want us to be people that check our faith at the door, nor should we check our politics at the door. And just because I am political doesn't mean I have to be partisan. But every element, I'm not losing respect yet, but I'm getting close to losing respect for pastors who have a platform. And when I say a platform, that means every pastor. You have a platform, but you won't use it and leverage it to educate people from a broader purpose and perspective. And this is what I want to say to those pastors. And I'm going to say something. If you attend a church and there is never a political conversation, there is never a conversation that would motivate and move the needle on public policy, I would argue that you are probably not in a church that's really teaching and preaching the Bible. Let me say something. For all of you who like, well, I just want to see people go to heaven. The gospel is the main thing, but the gospel is not the only thing. And that's the piece I want us to be clear. Listen, you don't have to wander from the cross. You don't have to wander from that in your preaching. But if I'm going to minister and preach the whole counsel of God, like Acts 20 tells me, then I have to be able to show how 1,000 other theological, philosophical, and ethical issues are connected to Jesus and connected to him crucified. And so I would argue that a gospel-centered pulpit that becomes a gospel-only pulpit ceases to be a God-honoring pulpit. And so, I mean, part of, what do you think is God's business? I mean, do you really think that when God saves you, he just does not give a darn about any part of your life? Like, you think God is that mean, that malicious, that disconnected from you? You really believe that? Like, do you really believe? This is a question. I know it doesn't sound like, it sounds like a rhetorical question, right? It's really a question. Do you really believe that when you get saved and you go to church, you get baptized, you join the church, you have communion, you do the things, do you really believe that the only time God cares about you is while you're sitting in your sanctuary on Sunday morning or Tuesday or Wednesday night? Do you think God cares if you get mugged? Do you think God cares if the street you live in is safe? Do you think God cares if the water you drink is clean? Do you think God cares if the air you breathe is clean? Do you think God cares if your child is fearful of a violent crime and an assault attack, weapon attack in his school so much to the point that he or she can't learn? Do you think God cares about any of that? Do you think God cares about women that are beat up by their husbands? Do you think that God cares about women who prostitute their bodies because they find no other way to be able to make ends meet? Do you think that God cares about any of that? Do you think God cares about addicts? Do you think God cares about people that are depressed or suicidal? Do you think God cares about any of it? And if you think God cares about it, why are you not talking about it if God cares about it? I could go through list after list, but before I give you list after list, for those of you that want to look at me sideways, and I shared some of this last night, I shared how highly political the Bible is. If you would just read it. Genesis. Do you know what Genesis gives us? Genesis gives us a cultural mandate to develop institutions on the earth. The reason institutions exist is because there was a mandate given in Genesis, throughout Genesis. Exodus. Who is more political than Moses literally confronting the government of his day, who was represented by Pharaoh? Here you have an image, a symbol, an example of a man of faith, Moses, confronting the government. So what happened? People of faith no longer confront the government? And this is my argument. For those of you that's tuning in, this is James Gailliard. I've officially gotten on my soapbox. And this is the James Gailliard Show live on Choice 92.1 FM. And I am challenging pastors who will not talk politics from their pulpit. And I am challenging people that attend church to help me understand how is that biblically accurate. Numbers shows you a democratic process that is under God. Watch this. For the selection of representative members. What is your political person called? A representative? You think the United States figured all this out? You think world governments figured this out? No, God figured it out. Deuteronomy, it affirms the idea of equality under the law. Equality under the law is affirmed in Deuteronomy. Joshua shows the need for integrating of leadership and a strong national identity in which morality is required as a distinctor for God's people. If you want one reason not to vote for Donald Trump, just read Joshua. Because Joshua says that as it relates to a strong national identity, there is a connect between a strong national identity and the morality of the leadership. You want to totally destroy and dismantle the national identity and image of America? Put immoral people in charge. So what I'm saying is that the Bible never ignores issues of morality. The Bible never ignores issues of integrity. It never ignores issues of character. Ruth talks about social responsibility and how social responsibility transcends legal limitations. Samuel reaffirms equality under the law. Shoot, why does Jesus die? For the wages of sin is death, and the gift of God is everlasting. The wages of sin is death. Jesus has to die because there is a wage attached to it. In order for God to be just, that somebody has to die because of sin. So if God was unjust, then no one would have died because of sin. But because God is just, and he's like, it is just, it is right for someone to die over sin. So he sends Jesus to die on our behalf because he is a God of justice. If he is a God of justice, why is not every pastor preaching about that? So all of this, I'm going to go to a church with smoke machines. I'm going to go to the church because we have a steeple on the top. I'm going to go to a church because the choir is good and the music is good because my pastor is hip, my pastor is cool. None of that is changing people's lives. What is going to change people's lives when we understand that we have a cultural, biblical, theological mandate to engage ourselves in the public square with both a language and a conversation about both faith and politics. Obadiah affirms that justice cannot be escaped. Jonah speaks about the responsibility beyond the borders of our own race and ethnicity. Come on, you want some examples? I mean, there's a whole different ethnic group that God tells Jonah to go preach to. He's like, nah, I can't do that, man. I'm out. He winds up getting swallowed up because God was adamant about the fact that we are not going to let people of a different ethnicity be left out of the conversation. And yet we really are fighting about immigration like we are. And I'm not suggesting that there shouldn't be immigration reform. I'm not suggesting we don't need to protect our boundaries and our borders. But I am suggesting that Jonah is clear that we have a responsibility beyond our own race, our own borders, and our own ethnicity. Over and over again in the book of Micah, the emphasis on morality, the emphasis on integrity, the emphasis on justice. Nahum talks about how freedom can bring both a curse and a blessing to a nation. You get into all of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you get into the whole conversation about governing supremacy of Christ. All authority is given to me on heaven and on earth. Listen. God is so bad to the bone political. This is what he does. He sends Jesus. This is how bad to the bone political God is. He sends Jesus to the earth. He says, you look in the face of the most politically authoritative and powerful kingdom there is. You look right in their face. And this is what you say to that kingdom. All authority is given to me on heaven and earth. You let them know this is my kingdom. You don't think that's political language? If you don't think that's political language, let the United States Air Force, Marines, Army. Matter of fact, let's just go. Let the president go. Let Joe Biden right now go to China. Get on the land and say all authority in China belong to me. Do you think there will be a war? So the statement of all authority on heaven and earth is given to me, that is a political statement. So what are we scared of, people? The reason pastors are not engaging politically, I think, is number one, because they don't know how to. But I think number two, they're scared. They're scared of the little social club that accepts me because I know how to stay out of stuff. We've not been called by God to stay out of stuff. You know, if people don't want to like you and associate with you and attend your church and join your church because you have the willingness to speak truth to power, then let them go. They're not your people. Pastors, listen to me. We're going to have blood on our hands if we stay silent. And so I could go on and on. 1st and 2nd Thessalonians talks about the value and dignity of labor. The value and dignity of labor. It talks about the necessity of maintaining the rule of law. 1st and 2nd Timothy, we're told pray for government. Titus talks about authority amongst diverse social groups so that it's not just one group of people. I was reminded, I don't know, Stormy, if you're on this, city councilwoman from Raleigh, she reminded me, I went through the whole list of firsts in my speech last night at the North Carolina Women's Empowerment Banquet. And I was going through all this long list of firsts. And she reminded me of this, and I was like, I said, I'm going to add it to my speech. I don't know when I'm going to give that speech again. Now listen to me. Titus discusses authority amongst diverse social groups. The book of Titus, you know, you shouldn't have all of one ethnicity in power. I want you to hear what I'm ready to say. It wasn't until 2020. This is not but 2024. It wasn't but 2020 since Raleigh elected its first black female city council person. 2020. Rocky Mount ain't never had a black mayor. Think about all of the firsts we've never had. And oftentimes the lack of firsts are because people that are evangelical, white Christian, who are claiming the Bible and voting supposedly their own morality, using the Bible the same way slave owners use the Bible as a reason to say, well, look, Paul talks about slaves. Guess I can have slaves. They use that same Bible to incorrectly interpret. Because if they were correctly interpreted, they would be like, man, we got to have leadership in all diverse social groups. But that's not the case. You know how many white churches, I'm really out the gate tonight, but that's all right. How many white churches, predominantly white churches, they have a handful of black people that attend. They always call that one token black person. And generally speaking, that token black person that they call won't have it'll be a black male. Rarely will he have a black wife. He'll really usually have a white wife, Asian wife, Filipino wife. I ain't mad at none of that. My mama was white. But they'll give him a position, but they won't give him any power and authority. But yet they're going to claim they're a diverse church. And they're not even having authority among their own diversity of social groups. And so, y'all, we got to do better. Look, I'm almost up on a break. James says there should not be favoritism in leadership. That should be forbidden. Hebrews confirms the equality of all people before God and how justice is indivisible from mercy. How justice is indivisible from mercy. So when we start talking about the criminal justice system, how do you, come on, Pastor, how do you get to pastor black people? Your church is predominantly black. You have people sitting in your congregation giving an offering. They have children that have been incarcerated giving a higher sentence than a white person. But yet you won't speak to the inequity of the criminal justice system? How is that possible, people? So my speech yesterday was about breaking barriers, but I spent time because my mandate, my mantle, I believe my calling from God as I preach the gospel is for us to see the political implications. Because what is politics? It is just simply the disbursement of resources and power and influence. And if we are not politically connected, we are then not connected to the disbursement of power and influence and resources, which is why oftentimes communities of color are under-resourced. Because let me tell you something. When people vote, once they get elected and they vote, they know who voted for them and who didn't. There's a few exceptions to that. Don't get me started. Edgecombe County, your current rep. Don't get me started, because I'm not coming for the black man on air right now. Don't get me started, your current Halifax County. So glad Representative Pierce has been elected. Don't get me started on some of them voting records. And so, y'all, we have to become more astute. This is James Gailliard. You are listening, watching the James Gailliard Show. I'm live every Monday, 5 to 6, maybe extended during early voting. I'm on 92.1 FM. I want you to share this. I'm probably going to get some hate mail, but that's okay. I can handle it. I'm a big boy. We're going to take a commercial break. On the other side of the commercial break, we'll wrap up today's show. I appreciate y'all hanging with me.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
AURN News.
In a major development that underscores growing economic concerns, U.S. job cuts surged dramatically in August, according to a new report by the firm Challenger Gray & Christmas. The Challenger report reveals that job cuts in August skyrocketed by an alarming 193% compared to July, painting a grim picture of the current job market and raising fears about the overall health of the U.S. economy. Now, the sharp increase in layoffs was felt mainly in tech, education, entertainment, industrial manufacturing, and retail. The report also cites current economic market conditions as the primary driver behind all the cuts that we've seen, which reflects a growing unease among businesses about the economic outlook. Another interesting tidbit, the report also notes that artificial intelligence, AI, was cited as a reason for job cuts in the tech sector, the first time this has happened since April. For AURN News, I'm Jamie Jackson.
You like what I got on there?
Get in there and take off all that white. What you got on all white for? We getting ready to take this stuff over to Meat Metals, Craig. That stuff gonna be dirty as I don't know what time we get back.
Darian told me I need to wear all white there before,
Before what?
I forgot. I think he said before the end of September, wear all white.
Get in there and take off all that white. Put on some dark clothes. We gotta go over here and unload this junk, Craig.
Can I wear my white shirt? Huh? Can I wear my white socks there?
5, 4.
I'm going.
Meat Metals, 280 October Lane in Enfield. We're wrapping up the summer, and we're paying you cash on the spot. Bring us all your old scrap metal, old vehicles, and more. Are you in a 35, 45-minute radius of us? Can't get it to us? We'll come get it. Call 252-883-1598. That's 252-883-1598. Meat Metals, 280 October Lane in Enfield.
This okay there?
And why would you go in there and put on church clothes?
You want me to stay here?
No, get in the truck. I see what you're doing.
You back again for another pregame haircut?
Gentlemen, are you ready to elevate your style? Welcome to Razors and Clippers Barbershop, where style meets community. 4121 New Bern Ave, Suite 105 in Raleigh. We're here to keep you looking sharp and feeling fresh. Walk-ins are welcome, and appointments are available for your convenience. Plus, we've got booth space for rent. If you're interested, call 919-917-7071 or stop by the shop. Razors and Clippers Barbershop. Sharp cuts, fresh vibe. Don't miss out. See you at 4121 New Bern Ave, Suite 105 in Raleigh. Get sharp today.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
Well, I'm officially back, but I was looking at your comments. I've been on my soapbox today. I've been arguing, and I have been arguing. I'm fussing. But I hope you feel my passion. I hope you feel my sincerity. I want us to become critical thinkers. I want us to exegete not just text, but context. I want us to really think through some things. And I want us to use our collective influence for the common good. We can do that. My argument today, as we end today's show, is nonprofit organizations' lack of political engagement. I've dealt largely with churches, but the same is true for every nonprofit leader. I don't care what nonprofit you learn. As a matter of fact, 2025, we are writing on church's strategic plan, and we have a separate nonprofit, the Reach Center. I'm not partnering with anyone that's doing nonprofit work that is not having some level of civic engagement. And the reason I say that is because what that says is you are not serious, sir. You are not serious, ma'am, about the work. Because if you were serious about the work, you know that you can't keep begging your way into a better life for people. You can't volunteer your way to a better life for people. At some point, we've got to move the needle civically. So let me go down some lists real quick in closing. If you're in education, there is a concern about a lack of Head Start programs, a concern about the dropout rate, a concern about the percentage of high school. Do you know in Edgecombe County, Nash County, it's a little bit better in Nash County, Edgecombe County, only 18% high school graduates meet a single ACT college readiness benchmark. Not even 1 in 5, y'all. So you mean to tell me you can run communities in schools or Boys and Girls Club, after school program? I'm just calling out places that do programming. If you know that that's a part of that problem exists because of public policy directed at public schools. Only 6 North Carolina counties are meeting educational attainment goals. A quarter of all high school graduates academically are even ineligible for the military. You know, military used to be the low benchmark, right? A quarter of all the kids graduating, the military don't even want them. We have to talk about this. Housing. A third of every house that everybody lives in Eastern North Carolina is considered substandard. There's a lack of access to workforce housing. We know that. Healthcare. A quarter of all adults are lacking emotional support. 12% of all teenagers are depressed. 13% of our population doesn't have medical insurance. Thank God we passed Medicaid. How many of y'all supported Medicaid? How many of y'all came through the doors of your nonprofit? You wanted to help them. They didn't have insurance, but did you pick up the phone and call the state legislator or send a letter and say, we're seeing people that don't have medical insurance. Can we find some medical insurance? You don't have enough money in your bank account to give them medical insurance, do you? Half of every child that comes to school in Edgecombe County, Martin County, live in poor or low-income homes. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Do you know 80%, and some people say 90%, 80% of everybody that's a criminal defendant are categorized as poor, which means if I'm an attorney, if I work in the justice system in some regard, we have literally criminalized poverty. Y'all, so it costs more for us to house an inmate than it does to attend the University of North Carolina. And so whatever your environment is, whether you are a pastor or whether you are a nonprofit leader or whether you are a member of a church, we must reintroduce the conversation of faith and public policy, or faith and politics, into the common vernacular, into everyday conversation. Look, I'm James Gailliard. This is the James Gailliard Show. I'm glad you've been with me today. I talked a little bit about tomorrow being National Voter Registration Day. You know what you need to do? Check that your voter registration is accurate. Make sure your ID matches your address. Come up with a plan for voting. Tell 10 of your friends to do the same thing. We talked a little bit about Haiti and Donald Trump, and now we closed up on why we as faith leaders and why we as nonprofit leaders have got to introduce the conversation of faith and politics back into common life. Love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening. Share this with someone. Follow me on all the social media outlets. I'll see you next week right here on Choice 92.1 FM.
The James Gailliard Show on Choice FM.
Now